Hello, my happy crumpers. Welcome back to Happy Crumper Wargaming. I spent a lot of time on this one. So, you guys have all heard the Blood Angels reviews. You've heard my review. You've heard of Art of War. You've heard Winters. You've heard all of the YouTube webs, people's opinions on the Codex. So what I'm doing today is I'm not going to be doing a long breath of, hey, this is what's in the Codex. I'm going to break down one of the detachments at a time. So today we're going to be doing the Liberator Assault Group. Tomorrow we'll be with the Lost Brethren, and then we will follow up with the Angelic Host. Each day is going to get their own very specific day, and we are going to be breaking them all down completely. Now, why am I doing like this? What's the actual point of these videos? Well, we're going to go through each individual new detachment. We're going to illuminate specific combinations and play styles for each individual detachment. We'll break down the limitations of each of the detachments. I'm going to give you a starting point, and we're going to give you a list example so that you can get started with the new Codex as quickly as possible and as educated as possible. Now, of course, as we get more and more reps with this new Codex, there will be more and more information and more thought process that will come out, but these videos are here to get you started as quickly as possible from an educated point of view. So that's why we're doing these videos, and I'm going to break it all down, and I'm going to give you a list example. I'm going to give you different combinations, all sorts of things in all of them. And today is the Liberator Assault Group. By the way, guys, if you're excited about this information, you could definitely like and subscribe and share it with your friends, and that would be freaking awesome. I also want to do one quick announcement. We are starting a new season of Happy Crumper Wargaming TTS League. So signups are available right now. I'm getting the player pack out tonight. And I believe we have signups all the way through next Tuesday, which, if I'm looking at the scheduling calendar, correct, next Tuesday would be the 3rd of September. And that'll probably be the last chance to sign up for this tournament. So this tournament will be 5 rounds, and it will be accessible to members of the Discord only, whether you're a member on Coffee or if you're a member on YouTube. So if you want to join into that league, it's going to get you turbocharged and get you a lot of practice into a lot of other really highly competitive players, and it's going to be an absolute blast. So hopefully you join us. Anyway, let's start this video off. We're going to start with the Index Reborn. This is the Liberator Assault Group. And for those of you who don't know, this is going to be the detachment which was most similar to the Index detachment. Now, in all realities, there's not that many similarities, but the detachment rule itself is very similar. So the detachment rule is +2 strength and +1 attack when you charge. One thing that a lot of people seem to forget is that you get +2 strength and +1 attack on the charge, on every charge. So even if you do a heroic intervention on your opponent's charge phase, so let's say they charge you and you use the 1 CP strat for a heroic intervention and you charge them, your unit will get +2 strength and +1 attack. A lot of people get confused by the wording of that stratagem, because what that stratagem says, it says that you cannot gain the charge bonus. The charge bonus is very specifically stated in the rules commentary and all of the rules places to be fights first. That is the charge bonus. You still get all of your other charge effects. So, for example, World Eaters would be getting +1 attack, +1 strength if they heroically intervene. Your Blood Angels get the +2 strengths, +1 attack. If you heroically intervene with Jump Pack Assault Intercessors, they get to cause their mortals on that heroic intervention. That is the way it works, just so people are very clear. So, same detachment rule. Now, we do have similar risk stratagems, and we're going to go in detail into the stratagems and how they're going to work and how you're going to use them into game. Some are similar, some are completely different. We have different units now, just because the Codex has changed pretty dramatically. A lot of the units are just very different, so we're not going to be able to take the same style armies that we were previously taking, but that's okay. And we have very different enhancements. I will say straight off the bat, the enhancements are better than they were in the Index. But so are our special characters. Our special characters are just so dang good. It's kind of hard to find a lot of room, not no room, but it's hard to find a lot of room to actually put normal characters in so we can use all these enhancements. There will always be 1 or 2 that you will use, though, because they're pretty good. So let's break this all down. Enhancements. And one thing I want to note before we start with the enhancements is that you can actually put any of these enhancements on any character so long as they are Adeptus Astartes. So, enhancement number 1, Speed of the Primarch. Once per battle, activate at the start of the fight phase, the model's unit gets fight first. This is sick. It's very strong. I tend to not enjoy once per battle enhancements a lot of times, but this one is a little bit different. It is super, super powerful, and it gives you a really good threat that allows your opponent, that makes your opponent have to think twice about engaging with you. Because when your unit fights first, that can be absolutely brutal for your opponent. If they only wanted to charge 1 unit, well, get wrecked because you're just going to fight first, you're going to wipe that unit, which forces them to charge 2 units. And that is a bit of a problem for your opponent. Now, with the ability to use this enhancement, we actually can get 3 fights first units in the Liberation Assault group, because you're going to take the Sanguinor. If you watched my video yesterday where I went through all the new units and stuff, trust me, you're still taking the Sanguinor. You are still going to be taking Mephiston, because Mephiston is just unbelievably value town now. And now that you have this, you can get an entire like big brick of warriors that can also have the fights first ability. That makes you a very good anti-melee army, even though it is a very different anti-melee army that it was previously in the Index. Because in the Index, you had access to fight on death, you had these 6-inch consolidations, you had a lot of anti-melee maneuvers, but now it's just very different. Still anti-melee though. Then we have Rage Fueled Warrior. This is also a good enhancement that I will strongly consider taking. And the list that I'm going to share with you today, that I want to get in your head so that you can get started, is definitely going to be taking the Rage Fueled Warrior enhancement. So once per battle at the start of the fight phase, gain sustained hits 3 on melee weapons. Now I do want to go ahead and share just kind of an interesting and cool little combination you can pull off. Now, you guys all know that I'm very disappointed in the new Sanguinary Priest. If you don't know why, then you need to watch my video from yesterday. I'm going to make sure I link that at the end of this video, where I go through all the new units and all that stuff for the new Codex. So the new Sanguinary Priest kind of sucks because he lost that jump pack, which means he can't go with jump pack Assault Intercessors and he cannot go with Vanguard Veterans. However, he can still go with Assault Intercessors. And I would think that most of the time you would not bother because it would just be expensive and it just really wouldn't be all that great. There is a cute little combination that you can pull off here, which I don't recommend doing because I think it's overall just too many points and it's not going to be good. But one cute little combination you could potentially do is you could take a captain with a unit of Assault Intercessors, foot Assault Intercessors, of course, and you could also take a Sanguinary Priest in that unit, and then you could give the captain the Speed of the Primarch, or I'm sorry, you could give the captain the Rage Fueled Warrior, and you could give Speed of the Primarch to the Sanguinary Priest, meaning when anyone charged you, you wreck them. So anyway, we'll go on to the next one. Icon of the Angel. So Icon of the Angel is exactly the same as it was in the Index. It's still good. I like it. It is not nearly as impactful as it might seem when you read it originally. So when you read it, it just seems unbelievable. Anytime an enemy unit falls back from me, they have to take a Desperate Escape test? Well, yeah, but it is excluding monsters and vehicles. And in 10th edition, units tend to be pretty killy. So not much survives getting charged with any real power. And if it does, then it's going to not be that impactful when they fall back. So let's say, for example, I charge a unit of Bullgrin and I have this enhancement on it. I don't kill the Bullgrin. Well, the guard player doesn't care that he's going to lose 2 Bullgrin when he falls back because of this enhancement, because he's going to fall back and shoot me anyway. So it just doesn't matter, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the enhancement's useless, but I typically have found myself falling into the play position where I only take this enhancement if I happen to have the points for it. And it's going to be very similar for this last enhancement, Gift of the Foresight. So once per battle round, and that's key, it's battle round, not turn. After rolling a hit, wound, or saving throw for the bearer, flip the dice to a 6. This is cool because you can go ahead and roll the dice. You can see that you ended up rolling a 1, and you're like, crap, my model died. And then you can use a 6 to flip it to then you can just flip it to a 6 and save your character. Or you could flip it to a 6 and give yourself a free devastating wound if your character has, say, like a Thunderhammer or something. So, I mean, it's cute, it's cool, it's not bad, but I honestly would never take it unless I just happen to have points left over. I would never plan on putting that in my army. Okay, so those are the enhancements. We have 2 quite good ones, and it's weird because they're the once per battle ones, which I tend to not like. And then we have 2 that are okay if I have points, which is actually a huge upgrade from the Index. Now, let's get into the strats, because the strats kind of define how this army is going to actually be operating. Strat number 1 is, I would say it's kind of bad, but at least there is a time where I could potentially use it. So it's Angelic Grace. Any phase. Just after a mortal wound has been allocated to your unit gains a 5-up, feel no pain against mortal wounds until the end of the phase. So the reason why this is just like, okay, instead of just being like, oh, it's really good, or instead of saying it just really sucks, is that most of the time when devastating wounds or mortal wounds are put against, not devastating wounds, sorry. Most of the time when mortal wounds are dealt against your unit, they're dealt 2 mortal wounds here, 2 mortal wounds here. Wraiths move over you in the movement phase. Suddenly you take 3 mortal wounds. Someone throws grenades. You can take on average 3 mortal wounds. It's pretty hard to actually pick a time when you're really just going to need to get a 5 of Field of Pain. Now, or a 5 of Field of Pain against them. Now, it is kind of cool in the shooting and the fight phase, because if you're going against a enemy unit that has a ton of devastating wounds that are coming at you, with the new commentary change, those devastating wounds apply as if they are mortal wounds. Don't forget that. They just happen to be mortal wounds that don't spill over, is the best way to think about it. And don't question me in the comments on this, guys. This is in the commentary. It's very easily spelled out. You can read it there. So what will happen is you can actually wait to see the end of your opponent's activation, because mortal wounds are always taken last. And the way it's phrased, it says just after a mortal wound has been allocated to your unit. So they don't allocate mortal wounds until after they're done making all of their rolls, which means you get to see how many mortal wounds you're about to suffer before you actually use this strat. So there will be times when the strat comes in handy. It is not awful. It's just not that great, but there can be times where it could be quite useful. So there you go. Then we have Armor of Contempt, which is awesome. Everyone knows Armor of Contempt. It's great. -1 to the AP of weapons. Red Rampage. This is a strat that is just straight up significantly worse than it was in the index, which, by the way, I don't mind, because the index was a little too good. So I'm not really complaining and moaning about that. It's just to be clear, this is significantly worse. Now, previously it was you get to gain Lance and Lethal on a unit when they fight. Now it is gain either Lance or Lethal, or you could have both, but if you have both, you're automatically battle shocked. It's not even roll a battle shock test. It's just you're battle shocked. This stratagem is fine, I suppose. It gives you Lance on demand. That's a little bit weak for a CP, because if you look at basically every other detachment in the game, like Gladius, for example, you'll get +1 AP and Lance. Or, I don't know, anytime you have something that gives you like Lethal or Lance, it's always like a 2-for. It's never just a 1. So now you only gain 1 unless you just choose to get battle shocked. And so the only time I can really think of this being particularly useful to take both, because I'll use it for sure. I'll use it to give my unit Lance or give them Lethals. But the only time I would choose both is if I had a unit that has to die, and I don't care when my unit dies in response. So let's say I'm going into a Satan, and I have to kill the Satan, and I have a big death brick of something going into him. I might choose to give myself both Lethal and Lance into him. And then just say, come whatever may, because I don't care if I hold the objective. You have to die. It's the only option. Which, that being said, just by the way, we're going to have problems with Satans from now on. That's another tangent. So most of the time, I'll just wouldn't use it. I might use it if it was in my opponent's, say it's my opponent's turn and they charge me and I heroically intervened with unit. Then I might use it. So using this in combination with a heroic intervention, and then maybe using your enhancement to make yourself fight first, there's definitely uses for it, but it is significantly worse still. All right, now let's go to the other 3 strats we have. We have the aggressive onslaught. Used right after your unit advances. Your unit becomes eligible to shoot or charge, or both if you choose to become instantly battle shocked. Now, yes, this is really good. This is what everyone's super excited about, because, shocker, advance and charge is good. I will say, advance and charge is very good, and it's not rare either. Like, almost every melee army in the game has access to advance and charge. So when everyone's saying, oh, Blood Angels are broken now because they get advance and charge, no, we have a 1 CP stratagem for 1 unit that has advance and charge, which is good. I'm not saying it's not good, but that is not broken. That is just par for the course, what bare minimum what every single melee army in the game has access to. So Custodes, they've got a Blade Champ that can give them advance and charge. Orcs, they have the Wah, which can get them advance and charge. Every other Space Marine in the game with Gladius has advance and charge for the entire army for a turn, and then you have a strat to always just give it to them whenever you want. World Eaters get advance and charge whenever they want. So basically, Eldar can actually do Eldar get advance? No, I don't think Eldar do, but Dark Eldar definitely get advance and charge. So basically, every melee army in the game has access to it, guys. This is not busted. This is not like the end of the world for you if you don't like Blood Angels. Just get over it, because this is good, and it's something that melee armies just kind of need access to. So I like it. It's good. Then we have Savage Echoes. This is a bad stratagem, just straight up. However, there are niche scenarios where it can come in handy. So Savage Echoes, in your opponent's charge phase, just after your unit was charged, give your unit +1 strength or +1 attack. Both if you choose to immediately become battle shocked. You can see a theme here. Well, this is forcing you to predict. This just forces a lot on you. So if you use this stratagem, you are also probably going to be betting that you're going to be interrupting there. which means your opponent is just going to activate there first and kill you first. So I don't know. I think this stratagem kind of sucks. The niche scenario where I can see the stratagem being very good is if this happens to be your unit that you gave the fight first enhancement to, which is only going to come in handy once in the game. Or if you're running maybe like a Judicar with your unit, a Judicar with a Blade Guard, for example. Okay, I could see that. Giving a unit of Judicar or giving a unit of Blade Guard veterans who are led by a Judicar so they have the fights first already, giving them maybe +1 attack or +1 strength. Okay, I can see that. That actually does make sense, and that can be quite good. So there are niche scenarios where this is good, but overall it kind of sucks because it only activates in your opponent's charge phase. It's not something you can just do in the fight phase. So yeah, I think it's terrible. Then we have Relentless Assault. This is good. You can fall back and charge, or you can fall back and shoot, or do both if you get battle shocked. You're going to use it. We liked it a lot in the index. It's basically the exact same thing, only it gives you the illusion of an extra option. So it's okay. We like it. Overall, stratagems are a little bit worse, but we do get access to one much better one, which is the Advance in Charge. But we definitely lost the 6-inch consolidation, which I found easily to be the best stratagem that we had access to previously. And that's going to dramatically change the way that the game is played. Let's actually talk about this a little bit. All right. So what is the game style of the new Liberator Assault Group instead of the Sons of Sanguinius? It's similar, but like I just said, no longer having access to a 6-inch consolidation will dramatically change everyone's strategy. Your opponent does not have to respect your threat nearly as much, and you will become a lot weaker against gunline-style armies. So previously what would happen is your opponent would have to measure for the charge, but they would also have to account for the fact that after you're done killing the unit that you charged, you're going to use 6 inches to consolidate and tag like 6 or 7 different units versus the typical 3-inch consolidation that they would normally have to consider. Now they no longer have to do that. This is a huge blow to the Blood Angels. It is a massive blow. I would say it's a bigger blow than the benefit we gain from getting an Advance in Charge. However, Advance in Charge is still very good, so I'm not dismissing how good that is. But losing that 6-inch consolidation hurts a lot. Now, access to Advance in Charge, seeing as we're speaking about now, it once again absolutely changes the threat ranges that your opponent is going to have to respect. Previously, like if I have a unit of, let's just say 12 Sanguinary Guard or 10 Sanguinary Guard who have a 12-inch movement. Well, they move 12, they can declare charge within 12, so they have a 24-inch threat range. So all your opponent has to do is stand 24.1 inches away, and it's impossible for you to interact with them. Outside of, like, I don't know. No, actually, it's impossible for you to interact with them because pistols still only have a 12-inch range. I guess they have angelic bolt guns now. It doesn't matter. It's impossible for you to interact with them. All right. Now, since you have access to Advance in Charge, they can't necessarily do that because what if you just roll the 6 on that charge, on that advance? Now suddenly you have a 6-inch charge and your opponent could be horribly screwed. So this is good. It is actually very, very good. I'm not saying it's not very good, especially when you stack it on, say, Dante, because Dante's going to give the unit +1 to advance and +1 to charge. And that starts becoming very, very scary for your opponent measuring threat ranges. This is very good, and it is going to force our opponent to have to really make backup plans for what happens if we make that charge. Then, like I said earlier, we've got access to 3 fights first units. This makes it extremely difficult for other melee armies to be charging into us. So difficult, in fact, that some melee armies just won't be able to play. Now, this is something that I got really interested in, and I took like a huge aside, and I went like a couple hours down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out exactly how impactful is a fight first. So I did like a bunch of mathematics on like what units can't charge a fight first unit. And on this style of fight first unit, this style of fight first unit. And I was thinking about doing it in this video, but I realized that's like a 20 to 30 minute video on its own. And so I'm going to do that later. So just be on the lookout for that. I ran all the math on what units are happy to charge a unit of Sanguinary Guard with fights first. What units are happy to charge a unit of Assault Intercessors who have access to fights first. And so on and so forth. And so I'll release that video later on. But for right now, just know it's good. All right. Then we have units that love it. So units that love it being Liberator Assault Group. Here's the deal, guys. The detachment rule rocks. It's a fantastic detachment rule. Every single unit in the game is going to love this detachment rule. Humble Assault Intercessors become super scary. They go to strength 6 on their chainswords. They go to strength 10 on the power fist from the sergeant. Humble Scouts become an absolute nightmare. You haven't lived fear until you've been charged by a unit of scouts that threaten to pick up a rhino, or a unit of scouts that split their attacks and kill two MSU squads of Eldar. It's actually kind of hilarious that they go to strength 6 and then they have access to lethal and lance. It's pretty funny. So I love Scouts and Blood Angels. I think it's one of the best units in the game, or in Blood Angels. Then you get things like Blade Guard Veterans. They become super interesting for the first time of all edition. Blade Guard Veterans are not that interesting. However, in this detachment, those Strength 5 power swords go up to Strength 7. They get access to Lance. They get a lot more attacks. Now you're actually starting to mess with something that is a very interesting unit, which is a huge shame because Blade Guard Veterans are some of the coolest models GW has ever produced, and GW, for whatever reason, hates them. Dear God, GW, why did you not let the Sanguinary Priest attach to Blade Guard Veterans? That would have been sick. It would have been flavorful. It would have been... Ugh. Anyway, I'm going to lose it. So let's move on. Other units that love it. Your Sanguinary Guard. They love the detachment bonus or for a Liberator Assault Group. These guys go to wounding Marine bodies on 2s without Lance, and then they'll wound effectively every vehicle in the game on 4s with Lance. So this is actually very, very cool. And just as an aside, guys, your Sanguinary Guard, you're almost certainly going to build everything with swords except for one with a spear, because you really desperately are going to want that banner to give your unit +1 to their OC. So I think you're going to take one spear and the rest are going to want to be swords. Now, the Humble Captain, by the way, becomes a force of nature in Liberator Assault Group, especially when you stack him with First to the Fray, which is his ability that gives him +3 attacks and gives him devastating wounds once per game. Your JPI 5-mans, these guys hit like crazy. All right, let's move on to some math hammer here. I'm closing in on the end here, guys. Math on the captain, just so you guys understand how cool this guy gets. He has 5 attacks, and he's going to have a Power Fist. You're always going to give him a Power Fist. He's going to go to 6 attacks on the charge, and that Power Fist goes to Strength 10. Now, you're going to activate First to the Fray, which is their once per game ability to give themselves +3 attacks and devastating wounds. This is going to give him 9 attacks on the charge. A Humble Captain, 80 points, giving you 9 attacks. Now, he will almost always want to be accompanied by Assault Intercessors, because those Assault Intercessors give the unit reroll 1s to wound or full wound rerolls when you are on an objective. Now, this is powerful, because suddenly what happens is this captain by himself, I mean, he's attached to Assault Intercessors, but we're not including their damage, we're just including the captain's damage. He's going to deal 10 damage to a baby knight by himself. Boom. That is a ton. That's a ton of output from an 80-point model. Then, let's go ahead and assume that this is our legend, the one that we wanted to give Rage-Fueled Warrior to. So he's going to get Sustained Hits 3 on his 9 attacks. Let's give him Oath of the Moment, and let's give him attacking a unit on an objective so that they get to reroll wound rolls and hit rolls. Suddenly, he's dealing 18.67 damage to a baby knight by himself. When you put this guy with a unit of Assault Intercessors, they have a very, very reasonable possibility of just straight up murking a big knight by themselves. That is wild. That is Value Town. So these things get really good in the Liberator Assault Group. And I think you're going to understand. The reason why I wanted to go through this math here is so that you can understand the army list that I am proposing. So let's talk about this army list. So guys, this is a Liberator Assault Group. Now I'm going to share just an initial army list with you that I want you to just consider. Some of you won't like it, and that's okay. But this is going to be a strong list. And there will be innovations as we get reps on the table, as we see what's necessary. But this is going to be a good starting place for people just to consider. Let's take a look. This is the list. All right, so we're going to run, this is 1950 points, which gives us room for the enhancements. And we're going to take probably Rage Fuel Warrior for the +3 on one of the captains. And then we're also going to be giving ourselves the Fight First enhancement on one of the other captains. Now, another way you could do it is you could take the Fights First ability, give it to a captain of the jump pack who's running with Sanguinary Guard. There's lots of ways that you could do this, but for this video right now, we're going to give one of these captains Fights First, and we're going to give the other captain Rageful Warrior for the once per game Sustained Hits 3. So the army is 3 captains, the Sanguinor, Dante, and Mephiston. Yes, that's a lot of characters, but this is not Leviathan. We don't necessarily care about giving Assassinate up all that much. Then we're going to have 3 units, MSU units, so minimum sized units of Assault Intercessor squads. That's going to be 225 points. 3 squads of JPI, or Jump Pack Assault Intercessors. Remember, this is Liberator Assault Group, where those guys actually trade up a bunch in their hitting power. We're going to take 3 squads of Scouts. These guys also trade up a bunch in their hitting power, and they are unparalleled amazing at playing the mission. And one of the things that Blood Angels has always kind of struggled with is playing mission. So these guys can be going uppy downy all game, just getting you different secondary points. And when they're in a pinch, when these guys charge, they still slap almost as hard as your JPI. Then we're going to have a Land Raider Redeemer, which is still super value town. It is, well, maybe not super value town, but it is still quite good even at 285 points. And you're going to take a 6 Sanguinary Guard Squad, which is going to be run with Dante. Lastly, you're going to have 1 Impulsor. So in this army, you're likely going to be having 2 captains with 2 Assault Intercessor squads inside your Land Raider Redeemer, and then you're going to have 1 captain with the Assault Intercessor squad inside the Impulsor. It's going to have a small footprint that is going to spread out to be a much bigger footprint when all of your guys disembark. You're going to be able to very quickly move up the battlefield, and you're going to be able to focus fire down more or less any units that you need to be able to focus fire down. So this is a strong starting point for you to consider as you are building your army. You also become very challenging to actually get charged with. So between Mephiston, the Sanguinor, and your Fights First Captains unit, you're going to have a bunch of Fights First available to you. Dante, leading the Sanguinary Guard, he gives that unit +1 to advance and +1 to charge. Now, they move 12 base, and then they get to advance and charge thanks to the strats of the Liberator Assault Group. So this guy has a very, very big threat range, which would be 19 inches of movement, and then you could charge technically 13 inches. So that is, that is far, man. That is, what, 32 inches? Yeah, I think that's 32 inches of threat range. So you must respect the power of the list. There's other ways you could build it out. You could build it with Blade Guard Veterans, and I'm going to come up with a bunch of other nasty stuff. But for right now, this is what I'm looking at to get started with. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing this video for the Lost Brethren, most likely tomorrow, and then I'll be doing one for the Angelic Host on Thursday. So if you like this stuff, like, subscribe, share with your friends, all those things. And until next time, happy crumping. Bye-bye.